Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome back for another edition of that ODPH Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And next to him is our comics blog writer himself.
What's cracking, guys?
Oh, it's the Bright Guy Signals. He's that amped up. He wants to jump in, doesn't even want to wait for the intro. We are excited to be back on the air, folks, and we just want to talk to you about what's going on in movies, TV, and comics. What else is there to talk about?
Jessica Jones.
Excellent starting point, Pat. That's the biggest news story of the week. Now, we are going to be talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen it on Netflix, go watch it and then listen to this segment of the show. But if you have watched it like we have much to discuss.
Oh, yeah, we do. A lot of unpacking to do.
A lot of unpacking since we last saw Jessica in The Defenders, which this is now, I guess you could call it Netflix Phase 2?
Yeah.
Or Phase 3? I'm not sure how you define it compared to the movies.
I think they're going the movie route of it, where you're going to have your seasons of your heroes, and then it'll all culminate in some big fashion. Obviously, this past time around was Defenders. Whether it'll be Defenders again or they'll go something different, I don't know. I'm not Netflix. I'm not Kevin Feige. I can't really say.
I don't really know where they would go for, like, Defenders 2, though. Like, I mean, obviously they set it up with the hand for the first one you had. Season 2, the hand was of Daredevil's hand was introduced. Then Iron Fist, for what it's worth, really focused on the hand. So then Defenders came out, and it's like, okay, you know who the villain is. It's the hand. I don't really know if there's another organization like that they could build up, or a villain they could build up like that.
I have my theory, but I'll get to that before we close out the segment.
Okay.
Because with Jessica Jones coming back, that is starting the sequels, or second seasons, if you will, of each of the Marvel heroes on Netflix. We know Jessica Jones is the kickoff. Luke Cage is coming in June, I believe.
Yeah, June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And then I will bank, in a good hunch, if you will, there will be one released sometime in October. I have not heard which one officially, but if my spider sense is tingling right, there is always one announced right around New York Comic Con.
Yeah, this is true. There was supposed to be one last year, but unfortunate events that occurred, it got pushed back a little bit.
Correct. So I'm guessing maybe we're going to hear Iron Fist 2 or Daredevil Season 3. That is my guess. I don't know anything. Marvel, if I'm right, hit me up. Hashtag ODPHEE. Let me know.
Daredevil Season 3, a.k.a. Born Again.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm going with my prediction. But let's focus on Jessica Jones right now. Gentlemen, we have all seen the season. What did we think?
Very good. Not the happiest book in the world, but then again, it's Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones, to me, is the most realistic superhero in the Netflix MCU.
I would have to agree with you, because she's not I'm conveniently a wealthy person living affluently in New York. She's I'm struggling to scrape 2 pennies together to get by in New York, and I've got people all around me looking to end my business.
And plus, she has her whole past haunting her while she's doing this.
Yeah, she keeps trying to get away from that.
Doesn't really work out for her.
No, not so much, but yeah, like we're saying, your heroes typically, things, they have to have conflict to really make them stand out. And Jessica is a very flawed character.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, given everything in her past and then everything she's been put through after her. Like, you look at what happened in her past, the accident, her parents dying, getting given powers when she really didn't want them to begin with. And if that wasn't enough, that's enough for like a year's worth of, Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz episodes. But then on top of that, she has everything with Kilgrave.
Yes, played by David Tennant, who did a fantastic job season 1.
Oh, amazing.
And to come back to season 2, where she's picking up the pieces from what transpired there, and now is starting to meet more heroes like her.
Yeah, which is cool to see. It's nice to see, kind of a slow build into that, and not just an explosion of, oh, hey, all of a sudden we've got 30 people with powers running around. Yeah,
because there really isn't like in Flash, where there was the accident that gave everybody in Central City powers pretty much, and now they're doing it with season 4 rather, with the dark matter hitting the bus, and now there's 13 more metahumans coming. Jessica Jones, you really don't know too much about her past, just she had powers. Now it's kind of getting fleshed out a little bit of where she got them from, and is she the only one?
And the other difference I like is you look at, Flash, for an example. You have people who get their powers and either they're choose to be heroes with them or villains with it. It's one or the other. They accept them. With Jessica Jones season 2, you had the one gentleman who had super speed, did video blogs because nobody believed he had powers and nobody believed anything he said. He was taken as a raving lunatic, myself included, until we learned the truth. He's like, no, this is a mistake. This is a horrible idea. We should not be okay with this. It was a very different take, and I liked it.
I was going to say, I also like the fact that it's like, okay, they're introducing more heroes. It's not just like they could go the opposite route. It's like, oh, Jessica Jones was the one person who got powers from a whole experiment. They're like, no, we're building on it. It's like they're doing it more realistic. Like, okay, if you're conducting experiments, you have multiple test samples. Jessica was just one of them.
Yeah. And I think it was a really nice way to kind of flesh out her backstory, because I honestly don't know that much about her other than what's been in the comics that I've caught and obviously the Netflix show. So to see her backstory come to life, and when they did the Origin episode with her,
yeah,
which I thought was the best episodes of the season.
Yeah, it threw me for a little bit just because it was a time jump that I wasn't expecting, and you had the whole thing with Trish going through her story to that point, and then all of a sudden she's a singer. I'm like, wait, what? But no, it was one of the best episodes.
Yeah, because it really gave her, like I said, more depth as a character. You really understood like how much she's gone through, and to see where she is now, it truly put everything together. The only other aspect that I really kind of took away is how it ended, which obviously who the real main villain was of this season was a definite surprise.
Yeah.
And now where she's going is kind of like her version of Born Again, because now she has nothing, pretty much.
No, I mean, and it's not the storybook happy ending. All right, well, we beat the villain, guys. Let's go have a coffee and a piece of cake.
Not that we were expecting a happy ending, so to speak, but...
And again, that's kind of more of the realistic aspect, like the relatability to Jessica. It's like anyone can go through life, and it's like, okay, they go through something hard. You still got to deal with the after effects of it. It's not just like, as you said, oh, we beat the villain. We're all good. We can celebrate. It's like, no, we just beat the villain. Now we got to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, this wasn't the end of Avengers. Let's go get shawarma.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest surprise was who the villain was.
That was out of left field.
Yeah, I think when it was revealed that it was her mother who had superpowers that was getting experimented as well.
Yeah.
And just see how she was getting manipulated, because I thought when they brought back Trisha's boyfriend, who I believe was Nuke in the comics, then when he was killed off, I was like, okay, who is this going to be? And if you asked me before the season began, I was fully banking the villain was going to be Typhoid Mary from Daredevil fame.
Okay.
Which I think would be a perfect villain for Jessica Jones moving forward. So if Marvel hears me, you're welcome for the idea. But I was really surprised it was her, and then especially going through, Jessica's had an emotional roller coaster, to say the least.
Oh yeah.
To see that it was her mother that was was being used as a weapon against her, and to see how it was playing out, and just the ultimate end game was just, how much of an emotional toll that was taken on her as a character. And Kristen Ritter knocked it out of the park at acting this season with it too, because that has a lot of emotional stuff that you have to portray on screen. And it really came across as that.
Oh, yeah. It was an incredible reveal of the villain. It was possibly one of the most left field, I didn't see that coming reveals I've seen in quite a while.
I would agree with that. It's like, because she literally thought, okay, my mom's dead this whole time. And then it's like she goes to the house and it's like, oh, I'm your mother. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, whoa. My jaw was on the floor.
It was definitely a plausible moment, because, I didn't see that one coming. And I did not know that much backstory to know that if she was alive in the comics and this is how they're going to do, introduce her on the show. So obviously when she came on, that played a factor and kind of really changed the dynamic she had with other characters. Trish, importantly, too.
Yeah.
Because you have the person who doesn't have any superpowers, who desperately wants to be a superhero. And if you know who she is in the MCU, she's Hellcat.
Mm-hmm.
So the little nod to, obviously she decides to get experimented on herself and nearly dies.
Yeah.
And to see that at the end of the season, when she catches the cell phone with her foot, that unless you really read the comics, you have no idea what that represents. Now, I'm wondering, are they going to introduce her as Hellcat in the MCU season 3? And where do we go from here?
I'm going to say probably if they do go that route, it wouldn't be immediate. It might be halfway through the next season. It'll be like you'll start to see more and more of her abilities, or it'll start to manifest themselves, and it'll be kind of a slow burn, and then it'll be like a full blown. Oh, I've got powers halfway through season 3.
I was going to say, I really don't think she would even tell Jessica about it because she probably think Jessica would try to talk her out of even using them. She'd be like, no, forget about these powers.
Well, that's assuming they're on speaking terms again by season 3.
That's true.
Yes, because obviously of, how Trish took out Jessica's mother.
Yeah.
And the dynamic between those two is shattered, and it will take a lot to piece that together, even though, obviously there is very little choice in Trish's part to how to handle that situation.
No, there was really nothing she could have done. You've got her mother who's just at the drop of a hat can lose her temper and just snap somebody's neck and kill them. And understandably, Jessica doesn't see her as a threat, wants to help her, because for 20 however many years she hasn't had a mother figure. She hasn't had a parental a figure that is related to her. So all of a sudden she goes from my entire family's dead, I've got nothing, to, oh hey, you know what, I've got a family member blood related to me still alive.
But that kind of comes down to, it's like, obviously Jessica wasn't on board immediately when her mom came back, and that kind of comes down to, it's like, well,
right,
she was gone for 20 years. It's like, you're not my mom. It's like, it's kind of like that debate. It's like, okay, is family really determined by blood?
Yeah, excellent point, Bri. Because obviously with how that ended and how unhinged her mother became, over the trauma that she's been going through over the years.
Oh, yeah.
That it was kind of going to end badly no matter how it ended. And obviously when Trish decided to take matters into her own hand, arguably not the right decision, but now your relationship with Jessica is completely fractured. Everybody around Jessica is pushed away.
Not the right decision in terms of her relationship with Jessica, but I think in terms of her things overall for the world at large, right decision. Because, okay, you're taking her out of New York, but therein lies the problem that unless she goes like nomad and just lives off in the middle of nowhere, 50 to 100 miles from any sort of human civilization, she's always going to be a threat.
And let us remember, too, that this is still tied into the fallout from Captain America Civil War, where there's the Superhero Registration Act.
Yep.
So obviously you have superpowers and you're not working with the system that is in place. They're going to keep coming after you. So what happens after that?
And it's not just going to be restricted to staying in the United States. No, every police force on the planet is going to be coming after you.
Yeah. So it does make for an interesting dynamic. And I also thought they did a very nice job with the Kilgrave cameo.
That was awesome.
I was actually really happy that he stayed dead, and I like the fact that like they kept him in her head, which is what I thought was gonna happen. Is like, okay, she's always had problems dealing with her past, and it's like now he's still in her head, even though she dealt with him physically.
See, I don't think he's dead.
I don't either, but I will explain this. But
I think you and I may be on the same wavelength here. There was a moment in the season where one of the officers, the one officer at the precinct who believes Jessica is on her side, says as much to her. In season 1, Kilgrave used his powers and held a gun to this man's head. And the entire time, even after he left the precinct, was still having issues with Kilgrave having affected his mind. But he told Jessica, they stopped the instant you killed him.
Yeah.
So he no longer has issues with Kilgrave because he's dead. She still is. I don't think he's dead.
I'm thinking that, and plus I'm also going on a very far-fetched idea that the hand might have brought him back.
I can see that.
Quietly, it'll be like revealed later on that he might have been used, because I can't see that the fallout from Defenders went away quietly.
No.
That's just my guess. What I was originally saying is for the lead-in now that Jessica is kind of having her born-again moment. We know it's coming in Daredevil. I have no idea what to expect of Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Punisher season 2 when that comes around, if he is going to be tied into those characters. But my guess is everybody is going to kind of have their own born-again moments. Who is the catalyst for the born-again series?
That beats me.
I thought it was Kingpin.
Correct.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm guessing that for Defenders 2, that he will be the main bad guy.
And didn't he get announced to be coming back in the next season of Daredevil, or at least he was going to return?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So I'm thinking you're going to see the foreshadowing of that.
That would make sense.
And that's what I'm thinking they could go with it, because I think that they were going to try doing something like that in the comics as well, or they were with another character involved, but I don't think they're going to go that route. I think they're going to use Kingpin.
So just just so I'm on the same page and so are our listeners, so you're thinking Defender Season 2 is going to be basically Frank Miller's Born Again? Like a larger scale?
A larger scale one. I think they're going to do Born Again for Daredevil as how the story was in the comics as his Season 3. But I think it's going to be the Kingpin is now taking over New York, and Daredevil needs help.
That would make sense because given the Hand was kind of running things, as we saw in the latter half of it, if you want to call it Phase 1. Now all of a sudden, if I'm not mistaken, because it's been a while since I've seen Defender Season 1, all of the head figures at the Hand are now gone, if not dead.
Correct. So now there's a power vacuum.
Yeah, so all of a sudden you've got a power vacuum of a whole bunch of people who are very good and very effective at their job. Say what you will about what their job actually is. They're very effective at it, who are now leaderless, and you've got a guy who's more than willing to step in and be a leader.
And especially if he wants to take New York back. From
Which we know he will.
Oh, yes, because as he announced in Season 2 of Daredevil in that infamous scene,
yeah,
I know you and I know Foggy, and I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
That's not going to go unnoticed. And I think that you're going to see other characters get introduced, maybe a Typhoid Mary. I will say definitely Bullseye, even though it hasn't been announced yet, but he is coming. And if you throw that into Defender Season 2, I think you got it. So final thoughts on Jessica Jones?
I thought it was good. I really liked the first season more, only from the standpoint I didn't really know who Jessica Jones was, so it was like the most fresh to me, like it was just original. I'm not in any way saying Season 2 was bad. I thought it was a really good follow-up.
I really enjoyed it. For me, it played out like a murder mystery novel in that, in a murder mystery novel, you start off, somebody got killed, you don't really know who it is, and it's the journey to solving the mystery. This was much in the same way of there's something clearly going on. This isn't something going on in everyone's head. What's going on? Who's the cause of it? And then you get to the end and you solve it.
I agree. I think Jessica Jones Season 2 is a must-watch. It's a good slow burn drama, but it definitely fleshes out the character. You understand her and all her struggles even more, and you can even take more solace in how much of a hero she is. And considering that this is the first show to come back from Defenders and Iron Fist, which in my opinion were not as great as previous Marvel shows, and this is coming off the heels of Punisher, which was excellent. It's a step in the right direction. I can't wait to see where the next season goes for all the Netflix shows. Let us know what you think on Jessica Jones. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk a little Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with you.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for the second segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And there was kind of a milestone that happened this past week with one of our favorite TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Big one.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you're in the know, had their 100th episode.
Which is always impressive to reach that milestone.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to see in some aspects a comic book show get that far, especially on network TV.
Yeah.
Because typically they don't usually have that much luck. But we are extremely ecstatic that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has gotten that far. And now we're kind of hearing that the renewal has not gone through as of yet, as we're recording on Thursday. Gentlemen, I'm just going to ask your thoughts on the episode if you have seen it. And if not, 100 episodes of a comic show, is that too much, too little? Where do you think they go from there? Starting with Josh.
Well, in regards to the episode itself, I thought it was a good episode. It was, they'd been teasing all week leading up to it that there was going to be a big reveal, a big surprise, big this, big that. And I was kind of, you and I know we're bouncing ideas back and forth of what it could be, each more believable as the next. And it was a very good episode. I very much enjoyed it. The plot twist at the end of it was surprising.
Yeah, a minor spoiler alert because as we do for each of our segments, we do talk spoilers, so just for fair warning. On this episode, the team has came back to the normal timeline from the future as they start of the season.
Albeit things are not as hunky-dory as they might wish they were.
No, S.H.I.E.L.D. is, what's remnant of Coulson's team is still on the run from the government. S.H.I.E.L.D. is basically disbanded at this point.
S.H.I.E.L.D. is disbanded, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they're all like #1 most wanted in the country.
Yes. And now they're coming back. They're getting reassessed from going into the future where they're having a problem with the Kree. And now they're seeing that the fallout is they're trying to prevent what has happened. And in this time frame, Coulson has come back, and we now find out the deal he made with Ghost Rider is now killing him, which is a very big plot line, considering Coulson, who has already cheated death
Once,
twice. We lose track because he's Agent Coulson.
he's Coulson.
What that mic drop? That's all you need to say. But now you're finding out that he's kind of going through his last, run there as S.H.I.E.L.D. director, and he's getting the future set up. And he's picked Daisy to take over for him, which, I mean, that does happen in the comics at some point. I believe Daisy Johnson does run S.H.I.E.L.D. for Nick Fury.
And in the show, it makes sense. I mean, when she joined the team and way back in season 1, he kind of took her under his wing and tutored her and made her into what she is.
Yeah. And obviously the biggest surprise of that episode was the long-standing wedding of Fitz and Simmons.
Yeah. Wow. Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, which was kind of out of left field. And the reveal that Deke, who was in the future, I guess, helping at some points, hurting the team, is actually their grandson.
That was very surprising, and I liked it.
That was the biggest shock of the episode for me, and I know I was talking with Pat about this as well. Did not see that one coming. It was an excellent episode. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's definitely worth watching, especially even if we're talking about it, you need to see it just
Yeah, the scenes where Deke, coming from the future where there's no Earth, there's no cheeseburgers, there's no beer, there's no anything that we enjoy here, none of that is there in the future. He comes back and he just starts binging on everything. He goes into a diner or a bar at one point and he orders like everything off of the menu.
Yeah.
And it's a funny scene.
So it's basically like Cable if he came to our timeline and wanted to experience what life could be like instead of a hell zone.
Correct. Yes. Except it was more childlike, I guess, because you just see the wonderment in Deke's eyes as he's going in there. He's like, oh, yeah, he's Zima.
Yeah, Cable, you wouldn't see that in his working eye. He'd be like, no, I need to prepare for the war.
Yeah, he walks into a bar, which he ran a bar back in the future, and he was going off photos or information or something, and he walks into the bar and he goes, oh, well, looks like I got most of it right. And he starts trying beer, like real beer, not the stuff they were serving in the future, and he's trying everything, and he goes, oh, this is just awful. And then he hands him a bottle of Zima.
Yeah.
And he starts and he takes a bite. He gets a big old
sip of that,
and then he gets a plate with a big old cheeseburger on it, and he bites into it, and it's like something out of like Castaway or some movie where somebody's stranded on an island someplace, and it's their first bit of actual food in like 9 years.
Yeah, it's just funny because he was like a big child, just with the wonderment of seeing like all this like timeline that isn't a war-torn region of space. And just him trying everything was kind of interesting to see.
And then he gets up. Yeah, he goes to leave the bar, and he gets up, and he's the only person in the bar because it's like 11 a.m. or something like that. Yeah. It's early in the day. He gets up to leave, like not understanding how everything works. And this time, the bartender goes to him and goes, "Yeah, so you got to pay for that, And he goes, "Oh, really?
Well, here's a coin, because that's the only currency they have in the future."
He's like, "Oh, here's a coin. I'm from the future."
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And you could see how that's flying over, and you're just seeing that entire episode. There's just a lot of different things happening.
Yeah,
that it just ties back, and they did have some nods to the original seasons of S.H.I.E.L.D. too.
Yeah, which is cool.
Bringing back Deathlock for a dream sequence. I was still waiting to see Trip.
Yeah, was waiting on that one myself.
Yeah, even though his cameo in the framework though was amazing. They need to find some way to bring him back, But regardless of the point, so Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had their 100th episode, and I'm going to pose this question to Bri Guy first. But when a comic book show gets to 100 episodes, is that a benchmark that they've kind of reached their peak, or do you think in some cases there's more story to be told?
So as you guys could probably guess on the last segment there, or last talk there, I have not seen the 100th episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. I haven't really watched the show, but I have seen Arrow, and last season was their 5th season, and that had their 100th episode. And I gotta say, I think it really comes down to if 100 episodes is like the point you should stop, or if it is a mile mark, definitely. But I feel like it just comes down to the writing. Like, if you can keep going with seasons after your 100th episode and it's solid writing, then by all means go for it. But if currently, like season 6 of Arrow, like season 5 was great, that had their 100th episode, and then this season it's like I really don't care for it at all.
Yeah, season 6 of Arrow has been, in my opinion, and I think I echo Brian's statement on it as well, it's been kind of a letdown because it started off with great premise because of how great season 5 was, but when you have the cliffhanger ending and no real relevant character is affected, and then you kind of spiral into, I don't want to say like a rehash of season 2 plotline, but it kind of has the same feel. That you have somebody that's pulling the strings of Oliver and company, and they're kind of, really taking their time. But it just kind of felt like I've seen this before.
And the thing was also with season 2, you knew it was Deathstroke who was pulling the strings. So A, it's Deathstroke, and B, you know that him and Oliver have a strong history together on Lian Yu. Mm-hmm. So it's like in season 2, it was much more compelling. Plus, again, everyone wanted to see Deathstroke go and kill people because he's Deathstroke.
That's what Deathstroke does. But yeah, in comparison though, this season, unless you read the comics, because you know who Ricardo Cruz is on the show, it's Richard Tiger in the comics, and you know what he's bringing in relation to Arrow. So it was kind of like the big reveal. It really wasn't that much of a reveal for me. I'm still intrigued to see where the season goes, and I think they have a chance to finish strong. But I think the problem with them is they have so many characters on their show, it kind of waters down the true storytelling.
I would agree with that, because one of my complaints is I don't like how big Team Arrow is. It's like it's hard if you're trying to focus on Oliver, but he has all of these other people working with him. It doesn't always mesh well because you have people who are contradicting Oliver, and then they're trying to focus on how Oliver's in the right, but then it's like, why have these other characters there to contradict him or to put other ideas in his head? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, okay, why do you have them then?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think in comparison to S.H.I.E.L.D., though, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s writing has gotten so much better as the seasons have grown on.
Yeah, because, I mean, I know we bring it up constantly, but like the first half of season 1, they're getting their legs underneath them. They didn't really have things figured out.
I was going to say, that's kind of what did it for me is like, I just watched like the first few episodes of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'm just like, I do not care for this at all.
No, I think they're still trying to find their footing. And I will always tell people, if you're going to start Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., start at the Captain America 2 episode of season 1. If you want to watch anything prior to it, it'll help some backstory.
I would say the only asterisk I would put next to it is episode 1, just so you know who the characters are.
Yeah, well, yeah, you should.
That's a good point. Yeah,
you could see that, or you can just jump in. Like I've had people jump. I know people that have jumped in at that point. And they just kind of put it together after that. Yeah. You get more benefit if you watch from the beginning, but some of those episodes are not as strong as others.
Yeah.
But as the seasons have gone on for S.H.I.E.L.D., they've been spot on, and especially last season was their best one thus far.
Oh, easily. But getting back to your point, in regards to 100 episodes in comic shows, I think if it's done right and written well, it works out, because the one that just came to my mind was the 100th episode of Smallville, Brian will remember, was the episode where Jonathan Kent died.
Oh, yeah.
Which was monumental episode, huge episode. Jonathan Kent was dying, and it kind of, as I'm thinking about it, it kind of marked a turning point for him. And I don't just mean that in his father's no longer there. It marked a turning point in the show, because prior to that, he was, going around Smallville and going around University or wherever he went and kind of saving things there on a smaller scale. After his father died, it kind of turned to, okay, well, now he's transitioning into becoming the reporter we all know. He moves to Metropolis, and it's kind of like turning the corner on the street block.
Because, I mean, Jonathan Kent's death was always a big turning point for him in the comics and everything, because, like, okay, his dad has the heart attack, and it just showed, it's like it emphasizes what really... The storylines for me that intrigued me most with Superman are when they show how human he is. He can do everything, but it's like, okay, his dad died of a heart attack. He can't do anything about that.
Because remember, correct me if I'm wrong, that episode had a wibbly-wobbly time stuff in it where initially Lana died, but he went and changed it. So because of time travel and there had to be somebody who died, it ended up being his father.
I think that's the case. I haven't seen Smallville in a while, but I'm pretty sure that was it. It's like and then it emphasized that kind of like what Barry experiences on The Flash. It's like, you can go back in time and try to change things, but it's never going to be perfect to what you want. Something's going to take its place.
And I think Clark has one line. I think it's either before, I think it's after the funeral, where he's standing in his barn and Lana comes up to him and she's trying to console him, and he basically goes, I have all these powers and I can do almost anything, and I couldn't save him.
Mm. It makes for a very interesting story. I mean, like I said, Smallville is kind of the benchmark we set a lot of our shows against because of how long it ran and how well it was done.
And it was really the first one to successfully do it.
Yeah.
And that's like it. Smallville got me into Superman. Other than that, I really didn't care for him. It's like I liked Man of Steel, but then everyone kept recommending Smallville, and I'm like, wow, I like this a lot. This is great.
No, Smallville definitely was the benchmark that I think a lot of shows are set to. I think S.H.I.E.L.D. is getting to that point now, too. But I know that there's a lot of rumblings that this season might be it for S.H.I.E.L.D. that they're going to write the season finale as a series finale. I'm hoping that's not the case because I still think there's some more stories you can tell.
The only thing is like, I mean, if they do write it as a series finale and then it gets renewed, that is going to pose some questions for season 6. Like, okay, what are you going to do if you set this up to be the finale? How are you going to transition that into another season?
The thing of it is, though, is I'm okay with them writing it as a season finale because I've known people who watch shows that, season finale ends on a cliffhanger. What's going to happen to this person? They left, you heard a gunshot, but you didn't see who got shot. Was it this person? Was it that person? And then midway through, the summer or whatever it is, they start announcing, oh, this show's got picked up for a new season. That show got picked up for a new season. And you find out that show you really liked where they had the cliffhanger ending, who got shot, who didn't, and it's canceled. You're never going to know.
Yeah, and I think if they're writing it that way, that's fine. But I'm just hoping that they're not doing it fearing they're going to get canceled. I mean, obviously, I'm not sure what the ratings are this season. Obviously, moving time and date is going to play a factor. But at the same token, if the writing is still there and it's still strong, and this season has been good, don't get it wrong, it's not as good as last season.
No, but it's not been as good as last season. It's been close. But in a more intriguing aspect because they've done a lot of stuff with this show. They've gone to a lot of places. They hadn't gone into the future and into space.
Yeah, and then plus now whatever the fallout's going to be from Infinity War, you would think that would reflect into the show.
Oh, it has to.
Well, obviously, if they do come back for next season, it would only make sense to do. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see. But as we're talking, though, hitting 100 episodes is definitely a milestone. Is something that should be applauded. So kudos to everybody involved with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let us know what you think. Is 100 episodes too much, too little? And what did you think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this past week? Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the third segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And there was some big comic book news that I know Brag Eye Signal wants to talk about.
Damn right I do.
Break it down for us.
So DC has announced that they're going to have their new DC Black Label series, which is going to be a line of our favorite DC heroes, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, possibly others, but it's going to be intended for mature readers. So they're not going to be pulling any punches when they write these books.
So don't let your kids read it.
No, definitely not. This is probably going to be their equivalent to the Max line by Marvel, and I am all for this.
Oh, I am too, because, I mean, I always like it when writers for comic books, they just take it out of the step like, okay, comics aren't always meant for kids. I mean, look at anything Alan Moore's written. It's like you don't give your kids that. It's like they're meant for mature readers.
And they're definitely going to be a different take on them.
Yeah, you would imagine.
Because when DC, I will say this, when they do their Elseworlds books and they really let the creators run with it, they are usually pretty spot on point.
Well, and when you look at a character like Batman and some of his rogues gallery and villains where they've got various, issues and stuff going on, they can really amp those up and turn it to 11 and just go crazy with it. Whereas, their normal issue, they really couldn't because it's getting read by folks like you and I, but you've also got, 11, 12, 15-year-olds reading who, you can't really turn it to 11 for them.
No, because certain characters and certain stories are not meant for kids. And that's fair, and that's an honest statement. But for the older audience, this is going to be something worth checking out because they have gotten a lot of grade A top talent on this books.
They are not holding anything back.
Absolutely not.
The one I'm looking forward to the most is, surprisingly enough, we're going to get another Batman story by the iconic duo from the New 52, Scott Snyder and artist Greg Capullo.
Yeah, this got announced. This got announced. I think I heard a supersonic yell from Ken.
Yeah, without question. And I will get on here and talk about Snyder Capullo's run on Batman as being the definitive Batman run any day, anytime, any place.
And I'm mostly interested in it because Snyder said after DC Metal Dark Knight's Metal was done, he was going to be done writing Batman. But then him and Capullo announced that they're going to be doing a new DC Black Label series, and they said we have one more story we want to do. And they announced the description of it, and the only thing I can think of is it's basically Old Man Logan meets Batman. Batman is going to be supposedly wandering the waste. He wakes up in a desert. He has the head of the Joker in a jar, and the Joker's still talking to him. And it's basically a world where his villains won, and Gotham is now a wasteland.
This is intriguing on so many different standpoints. I mean, let alone Snyder and Capullo are teaming back up for Batman, which is, okay, you had me then. Like, take my money now.
All they had to say was Snyder, Capullo, Batman, and Kanzen.
Yeah.
And he's just like, shut up and take my money.
Seriously. I have no shame in saying that. But let alone you're going to let them go and definitely take a step outside the box.
Yeah.
Because I know this kind of reads like Old Man Logan for Batman. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't care.
I was going to say, I'm not saying it's like Old Man Logan, but with Batman in a bad way. I'm all for it. When I read the description, I'm like, oh, this sounds awesome.
But if you think about it, for as much as they've written everybody in the Batverse there, when they had their run, and it's an iconic one at that, this is definitely something that just sounds left field. And then, you know, with Dark Knight's Metal, that's a whole different ball of wax that is covering the entire DCU. This, though, I mean, this just sounds crazy
and it's like
awesome.
And it's like you guys said, it's an intriguing story because by and large you can pick up any trade paperback of any Batman story ever, and yeah, he might have some losses, yeah, he might take a few punches on the chin, but what happens at the end of the day? He wins. Mm-hmm. Gotham is saved, the day moves on, the calendar, turns to the next day, life goes on. This will be intriguing from the fact that he lost. And he didn't just lose, he lost colossally.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds as though his worst nightmare has come true.
Like he's walking around a wasteland of Gotham with the Joker's head in a jar. He didn't just lose, to Two-Face and Two-Face robbed the bank or whatever. No, something happened where Gotham is, if not deserted, it's very sparsely populated.
Yeah, either way you cut it. I mean, getting those guys back on the book is amazing because, Snyder's going to be writing Justice League this year. And that's going to be phenomenal. But to get those guys back together working on something, sold.
Mm-hmm.
Other series that released, probably the one that I'm most interested in, but it's kind of it can go either way. It could be good or bad, is Frank Miller is coming to do Superman Year One.
With John Romita Jr.
Yes. I just don't know. It's like I don't really know if we need a year one of Superman, but then again, I never thought we would need a year one of Batman, and I read that also by Frank Miller, and that was a great comic.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an intriguing idea behind this because if they're coming to do this, and this is the year of Action Comics 1000,
mm-hmm.
and Brian Michael Bendis is going to be taking over the entire Superman line this year, there's definitely big things happening. So to see how Frank Miller is going to take this and run with it is definitely something worth reading. And I think there's a lot of possibilities. It's got a high up window on this one. And I think that one's going to be a limited series, whereas comparison with the Batman, I believe that's a one-shot. The other one I'm really excited for is the Wonder Woman Historia with the Amazons, with Kelly Sue DeConnick joining DC and her teaming up with Phil Jimenez for us. I hope I pronounced his name right. That is going to be spot on with the histories of the Amazons and ties to the Wonder Woman.
I was going to say, I'm really excited for that. When I read the description, I thought it was going to be a Wonder Woman origin. And it's like, no, it's her mother's origin in the whole Amazons. And what I'm really hoping for is, since they're mostly based in Greek mythology, I'm really hoping they include actual Greek myths into that comic as they explain how the Amazons shaped their own world and how they became the society that they are.
See, and that makes sense for them to do that because you look at the success of the Wonder Woman movie, and the very opening of that movie was, a brief history of the Amazonians and how they came to be who they are. And if you go back and watch that scene, you can tell there feels like there's a lot of room for a lot of stories in that time frame because I got the feeling they weren't just sitting there.
Yeah, I'm guessing I wouldn't be surprised if like Ares shows up in that or something.
Yeah.
I think it would be a very interesting take no matter where they go with it. I mean, DeConnick is a fantastic writer. I'm excited to see what she can do over at DC. And, I mean, obviously with Phil Jimenez on artwork, it's going to look amazing too. There's no question about that. And if this is the tip of the iceberg, who do you want to see character-wise be written on the Black Label?
That's
Green Lantern.
Oh, Green Lantern would be interesting.
Green Lantern, just, if it's for mature audiences, you don't got to pull any punches. I want to see what they can do with a man who can create anything based off of what he thinks in his mind and his willpower. I want to see what they can do.
That's a really good take.
I got two.
Okay.
One is kind of more of a serious one. The other one is just for, okay, what could you get away with? Serious one, I would like to see Dr. Fate.
Really?
Ooh, okay.
I really feel like if you deal with the occult and mystics and everything, I feel like Dr. Fate, if well written, you could do a lot with it. For just to see how far you could get away with Lobo.
Oh, Lord.
That is simply, okay, how much can we get away with this?
That would be an interesting, because you can go a lot of different directions
Of
with
the
Lobo.
two, I would love to see Dr. Fate get his own adult Black Label series, but Lobo would just be very entertaining to see what you could come up with.
I would have to agree with that. For me, I'd like to see Green Arrow.
Okay.
Because I think that you can definitely go a lot of different directions with Green Arrow. And I think that, granted, Ben Piercy's run has been phenomenal.
I was just going to say, could Ben Piercy write this?
If he'd like to, if he wants to come back to the character, I would have no issue with this. But if you really want to kind of go into, the more comic book background rather than the TV background of the character, I think you got some room to go with.
Definitely.
And, I'd love to see a Deathstroke book, but that's just me.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
With Christopher Priest writing, if there's another story you wanted to tell kind of outside the DCU verse.
I'm sure he's got something he could do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I still can't wait for next month when Priest is writing Batman versus
Deathstroke.
And that's just happening. That's not even an adult line thing. That's just, we're going to have them fight.
And it's really cool to see that they're taking another push to start doing more mature readers lines, because they haven't had a big push in this area since they launched Vertigo back in '93. And that was with Neil Gaiman, Sandman being the head one in the flagship title of the imprint, but they also did Death, High Cost of Living, and if there was any books that were around that time, because I know that previous stories such as V for Vendetta have been re-released under the Vertigo imprint.
I was going to say, I own the V for Vendetta trade paperback, and it has the Vertigo printing right on it. Really recent ones I can think of that they've done, recent series Vertigo has done, was like Sheriff of Babylon, American Vampire, again by Scott Snyder. So it's like, yeah, it is interesting. It's like but those comics came out a while ago. It's like they haven't really touched on Vertigo at all. So it's interesting that they're not just doing these stories under the Vertigo banner.
There's definitely a market, I feel, for a more mature line of comics, in that I would certainly enjoy, reading a story where a Superman, Batman, Flash, or what have you, they don't have the easiest time solving whatever issue is plaguing their city. Like if Superman's got something attacking Metropolis from outer space, that he doesn't just fly up to him, punch, heat vision, and it's solved. No, I would be okay with him maybe, okay, this isn't something I can just punch my way through. I've got to take a step back and kind of think this one through.
That's one of the nice things that Image Comics does, is like they have superhero lines where they are just intended for mature readers. That's just like you go there and it's like it says mature readers only. It's like it does, and Image Comics has thrived successfully.
Absolutely. There is a market for it. If you want to take a look at the mainstream, what's the newest show on AMC? Preacher.
Yep.
And that's a DC Vertigo book. And there's been a lot more that you've seen writers such as Grant Morrison, Garth Ennis, Warren Ellis, Brian Azzarello get really kicking on their careers on there. And it's a platform that they're allowed to tell stories that are outside the mainstream. If you ever have read The Invisibles, Transmetropolitan, 100 Bullets, Why the Last Man, the list goes on of how DC's Vertigo has really made themselves stand out. And I think going to the Black Label that's coming out, and now you're tying in the DC iconic characters and telling stories that are really outside the box and really left to center, I think has a lot of opportunity to really tell great stories. And that's really what you want with your comics.
I was going to say, the only reason I can maybe see them not using the Vertigo banner for these stories is maybe because it's like, okay, Vertigo never published Batman or Superman, so maybe it's like, okay, DC Black Label, it's like, okay, you're dealing with the heroes and the comic characters that you already know and love. And maybe I know there's rumors that they're trying to revamp their Vertigo line.
There's been some talk of it, but I don't have anything concrete I can comment.
Same.
Really.
That's the only thing I know is like there's just rumors, and that's it.
And they have done some with their Young Animal line too. That's currently out right now with the Shade the Changing Girl, I believe, and Doom Patrol. So there has been some steps in the right direction with that. To see where they go with it is phenomenal. But to tie it back in, the Black Label is definitely something worth reading and watching when it comes out. And I'm excited for it.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely excited for it.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be checking out some of what comes out.
So let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thoughts on DC's Black Label coming out? Are you excited? Are you more excited than me about Snyder and Capullo's Batman? That's going to be a tough argument, but hey, I'm willing to hear it. Hit us up. Let us know. We're going to come back, close out with the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Closing out this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition with a couple one-shots going around the panel. Bry Guy, what you got?
Yesterday we had the drop of the new Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them movie, Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald. That'll be coming out this November for all you Harry Potter fans out there.
Now, this is the prequel to the Harry Potter series,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be, I believe, movie 2 out of 5.
Yep.
Am I correct?
Yeah. Movie 2 out of 5.
Yep.
And what was your thoughts on the trailer?
It looks good. I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to see Jude Law as Albus Dumbledore, a young Albus Dumbledore.
Yeah. A lot of people are very intrigued by that.
And the other one that, well, they're not real. It was really polarized. I'm also I am among the ones who am looking forward to seeing Johnny Depp as Grindelwald. I know there's quite a few people who are not happy about him playing him.
I'm intrigued to see where they go with the story because, as we know, and as has been said by J.K. Rowling and David Yates, the director, ultimately the story is going to end with what has been hinted in the books but never really shown or seen is the duel between Grindelwald and Dumbledore.
Where Dumbledore gets the Elder Wand, one of the Deathly Hallows, which if you've seen the Harry Potter movies or read the books, it's
like the ultimate wand. It's the best one of all time.
Yes.
And that's what the movie is ultimately going to culminate in. So I'm very intrigued to see, because of course the first one ended with, it being revealed that, oh, hey, this guy we thought was all good is actually this really bad wizard we're looking for. And he's in prison. I'm just very intrigued to see where the story goes because this is being written by J.K. Rowling. This isn't like she gave him a story idea and somebody else ran with it.
And that's the thing. The reason I'm looking forward to this is I read the Harry Potter books. I loved them. They're still timeless to me. And it's just the reason I like the first one so much is it was a movie that took place in the Harry Potter world, but there was no book that it was based on. So I could just sit there and watch it instead, because every time I watch the Harry Potter movies, as much as I like them, part of me is always like, oh, well, that's not what they did in the books, or I wish they had thrown this in from the book. But they're good adaptations, and this, it's just, like I said, it's just a movie in the Harry Potter world. So I don't have to worry about, it's like, oh, well, they could have done this differently like in the book. There's no book to base it off of.
Yeah, I remember saying to my sister, because I went and saw the first Fantastic Beasts movie with my sister, because we'd seen all the other Harry Potter movies together. We were on the way over there, and I thought about it, and I said, I'm like, this is the first thing in this world that I'm going to view or interact with since I read the first book, where I'm going into it completely blind, not knowing what's going to happen, and I was very excited by it.
It's got a lot of hype behind it. I mean, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan in the world, but I do like the movies. So I'm kind of interested to see where this is going for prequels. Like I've said in previous shows, prequels don't really do a lot for me, but I'm going to go check it out. Pat, what you got this week?
Interesting and slightly sad news, although not too sad news. The video game, I know I mentioned it before, Days Gone was delayed. It was supposed to come out in the later half of this year, although from what I have been reading online, it wasn't delayed due to development issues or they needed more time. No, this was just strictly a business move because you have Red Dead Redemption 2 getting released in November of this year, which is arguably the most anticipated game of the year, if not the last 5 years, I'd say. And it is big enough and anticipated enough that Activision has moved back the release date for Call of Duty for the first time in 12 years, back from November into October.
So I guess what you're saying is this is kind of a big deal.
It kind of a big deal because I had to look this up because since I started paying attention to video games and when they come out and stuff like that, Call of Duty had always come out in November. it was a staple. It's, Call of Duty in November, some more big games in December. It's kind of video games kind of, if you're thinking about putting something out in November, you don't, because Call of Duty is coming out and it's going to dominate sales. No, Call of Duty, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out in November, they moved their release date up to October. So yeah, Days Gone got moved to 2019 strictly as a business decision. So something to still look forward to.
I will say, if we are talking video games, Tomb Raider, the movie, came out, is going to come out this week. And they announced today that there's going to be a third Tomb Raider remake, a third game in the Tomb Raider reboot series, which there will be more information about it in April, and the game is supposed to come out in September. So for all you Lara Croft fans, we're getting another one.
There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out in the realm of the video games. As referring to movies, though, I have 2 quick hits to send us out with. The first was Deception, came out on ABC this past Sunday, which, if you like a lighthearted drama crime story, this is for you. I saw this when I went to New York Comic Con this past year. The panel was awesome. It was kind of the surprise of Comic Con for me, and I know we mentioned it on the first episode of the Entertainment Edition. This is Magician Impossible. It's a story about how a disgraced magician, and I don't want to spoil it for everybody because, well, I don't like ruining tricks and magic. His trick is ruined, and you'll see why, and he has to redeem himself by working with the FBI about solving cases. It's lighthearted. It's fun. It's definitely, like I said, I got the Mission Impossible vibe with it, but it was more so involving magic. So if you are a fan of magic, you'll definitely dig the show out. Sunday nights, 10 o'clock on ABC. My second one is the big news of the week, probably going to be for next week. Avengers Infinity War final trailer is coming out Friday, March 16th. I'm not sure of the time, but if I have to make an educated guess, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm going to guess somewhere in the 8 o'clock time frame. It'll get dropped on Good Morning America, is my guess.
I haven't seen any official announcements it's coming there. I know they did the last one, but I haven't seen one for this one. But I'm going to guess it's going to be early morning, and I will say ticket sales go on sale shortly after that. That's just my hunch.
And I say Good Morning America just because of recent history with Disney-owned movies and Disney movies getting trailers and whatnot dropped. Usually if a trailer gets dropped, obviously you've had the few Star Wars ones on Monday Night Football for the biggest crowd. But usually when it comes to a trailer reveal, like an Avengers, like a Star Wars, like what have you, usually it gets dropped on Good Morning America.
But the first one or the second one?
I see what you're saying.
I'm just hoping. I'm really excited for the trailer because we've said this numerous times on the show. We've been waiting for this movie for 10 years. We've had 10 years of build up for this movie. I just don't want him to reveal too much because I think we can all agree comic book movie trailers for certain movies, they have revealed a lot.
Absolutely.
In the past. I mean, Batman v Superman was one of them. Even Civil War that year, they revealed a lot for it. So when you went into the theater, you're like, well, they're setting certain stuff up, but at some point this scene has to happen with these two people, so they're both going to be fine.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do for the final trailer because, like you said, they've revealed a lot thus far. And obviously with the scale of how epic this movie is going to be, what else could they be hiding behind their sleeves? I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to be tuning in to watch. And when that movie is coming out, we're going to have a full review on this show.
Oh, yeah.
That will probably be an hour-long episode as well.
That is a guarantee.
But that's all we got for now. So for the Bry Guy Signal.
Signal out.
For Padawan J.
Thank you for listening.
And I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.